On this week's episode of Theory Thursday, we have 5 insanely good theories to talk about regarding Spider-Man Far From Home, Avengers Endgame, the upcoming Black Widow movie, plus a lot more. How's it going, everyone? It's Warren, and welcome to this week's episode of Theory Thursdays, my segment where you all submit your theories. I choose 5 to go over each week. You all vote on which one you thought was your favorite, and then at the end of the month, you all vote on which one you thought should win the overall month. If you would like to send in your own theory for a chance to end up in an episode of Theory Thursdays, you can find the email to send it to and the instructions in the description down below. Remember, don't forget to vote on your favorite theory in the poll at the end of the video. Also, if you enjoy other theories, you can check out my other channel, Cosmic Culture, where I talk about a ton of superhero theories. Okay, like I said, we have a ton of really good theories this week, so let's dive right into them. Our first theory comes from Ricky Steigall, and Ricky's theory says that when Cap traveled back in time to return the stones, he somehow got Nat back in exchange for the Soul Stone. Nat then helped him return all the remaining stones, and she also helped him fix all of the things that they messed up. Ricky says that Captain America did not marry Peggy because that would change the future, and marrying Peggy would prevent her from marrying the husband that she married when Steve froze in the ice, so he just stopped by to dance with her at the end. Then when Captain and Nat were ready to go home, they only had one Pym particle left, so they promised to stay and only return if one of them died. Years passed and Nat and Cap got married, lived a life together until Nat died, and that's when Cap returned to inform everyone that everything was okay. This is why at the end of Avengers Endgame, when Sam asked about Captain's wedding ring, he refused to tell him who the girl was because it was actually Nat. I have heard a few different variations of this theory and I like it. Right now there's sort of a big mess between what the director said happened and what the writer said happened. But Peggy and her husband and her kids were in the main MCU timeline. And Captain America going back in time by the rules of time travel according to Avengers Endgame. That would create an alternate timeline. And Steve Rogers, good old Captain America, would not go back in time and prevent Peggy Carter from marrying who she is supposed to marry. And Captain and Natasha always had a little thing going on, so I like the idea that Captain actually married Natasha. He got his dance with Peggy, but he ended up marrying Natasha. So that is theory number 1, on to theory number 2. Speaking of Natasha, the next theory comes from Jake Davison, who has a theory about how the Black Widow movie is going to play out. Jake says that he thinks the Black Widow movie will take place in the 1990s or the early 2000s, and Black Widow will of course be an assassin. In the movie, we will see her take her first life, as in kill somebody for the very first time. We will see them make her an assassin. We will see her training, her first killing, and of course Budapest. Jake says that he thinks that we will see a cameo from somebody that we have seen before, for example, Hawkeye. We know that Hawkeye turns Natasha good and saves her life. We will most likely see Hawkeye get ordered to go to Budapest and take down Nat's organization. And then he meets Nat, and instead of killing her, he decides to save her. Hawkeye will take her under his wing, but he will hide her from S.H.I.E.L.D. and will train her in his own ways. Then S.H.I.E.L.D. will discover her. There will be a big fight, but the movie will end with her being recruited to S.H.I.E.L.D. And the post-credit scene could tease the Eternals watching over the world. I definitely think that the Black Widow movie is going to happen somewhat like this. And I definitely think that we're going to see Budapest in the Black Widow movie. So that means that we'll probably see Hawkeye, since Nat and Hawkeye both talk about Budapest a lot. And if we see Hawkeye, that means he's definitely going to try and save Natasha, which we know he eventually does. How long this takes, we don't know, but this may be the story that we see in the Black Widow movie. And we recently learned that Taskmaster is going to be the villain, so maybe Hawkeye and Natasha have to team up to take on Taskmaster. So that is theory number 2. Let's move on to theory number 3. Theory number 3 comes from Blockout Studios, and they have a theory about Mysterio being the Sorcerer Supreme in an alternate universe. Now, I know we've had a lot of theories about Mysterio being learned in the mystic arts, but this one offers a different twist to it. Their theory states that when Professor Hulk went back in time and told the Ancient One that Doctor Strange gave up the Time Stone, she chose a different Sorcerer Supreme, Mysterio, which obviously created a different timeline. The universe ends up getting destroyed due to corruption, but in one last effort, Mysterio jumps to the dimension that the snap created. But when Captain America goes back in time and returns the Time Stone, this alternate universe gets destroyed. Mysterio is obviously still alive since he is in the main universe now. However, he does learn that his universe was destroyed, but he thinks it was the elementals that did it. But then Peter tells him that it was actually Captain America returning the Time Stone that killed his universe, and this is when Mysterio becomes the villain. This is a very interesting theory because in the Spider-Man Far From Home clips and trailers and TV spots, it really does seem like Mysterio is a good guy. Him and Peter genuinely seem like they're best friends, and maybe they truly do start off that way. Maybe Mysterio is really trying to help, but then he finds out that his universe was destroyed because of Spider-Man and the rest of the Avengers. And then this is when he becomes the villain. He seeks vengeance because of the destruction of his universe. The screening and the official premiere for Spider-Man Far From Home have already happened, and people say that there are a few really big twists. And I think pretty much everyone is expecting Mysterio to be bad, but maybe he is not initially bad. And maybe that's one of the twists, is that his universe was created and then destroyed due to the aftermath of Avengers Endgame. Luckily, we only have 4 more days to wait until we find out. So that was theory number 3. On to number 4. Theory number 4 comes from Zane HOQ with a theory about how Supergiant could be the next villain for Phase 4. Zane says, "My theory is that when Thanos found out that the Avengers were looking for the stones, he took the Black Order with him, and at the end of Endgame we see Tony snap his fingers and he kills Thanos, the Chitauri, and the Black Order. But he did not leave his time, 2014, alone. He had a backup plan in case his plan didn't work out and he was defeated. Supergiant was a member that was going to be included in Infinity War, but they ended up cutting her because they gave Ebony Maw her powers. Since they didn't cut her, that means she's still on the table to be added to the MCU at some point." Zane says, "If you think about it, Thanos is a man who is used to war, so he put together some reinforcements to avenge him in case his plan didn't work out. Supergiant." Zane says that another thing to think about is that in the comics, Supergiant is sent to Xavier's School for the Gifted Youngsters to dispatch the X-Men in search of Thanos' son. This would be a smart way to introduce the X-Men since the Disney Fox deal is now done and the X-Men can be used in the MCU. So a lot of people were really wondering why they didn't put Supergiant in the Black Order in Avengers Infinity War or Avengers Endgame. But now that we've seen Avengers Endgame and we know that the present Thanos dies and the 2014 Thanos goes to the present time, it could make sense that he left somebody from the Black Order in the past. And maybe Supergiant is the one that he left behind, because it does make sense that he would want to eventually go back to 2014. And I would definitely think that if Supergiant found out that Thanos actually died, she would somehow take command over whatever army is left and try to get vengeance. And this could definitely lead to her becoming a villain in future MCU films. So that does it for theory number 4. On to the final theory number 5. The final theory number 5 comes from user Ding Dong Fling Flong, and Ding Dong has a pretty crazy theory about Captain America returning the Soul Stone to Vormir. This theory says that what if Black Widow is still alive? What if Steve actually went back to return the Soul Stone to Vormir, but instead he saved Natasha? He could have saved her from falling off the cliff and sacrificing herself in Vormir. Because if he ends up saving her, the Soul Stone will still be in Vormir, but he could give the Soul Stone that he has to Hawkeye. This shouldn't really disrupt the timeline because the Soul Stone stays there, but Clint still gets a Soul Stone as well. And what would have created an alternate timeline is Clint taking the Soul Stone from the past. But this way the Soul Stone stays there, but Clint gets a stone of his own and Natasha stays alive. This theory would actually make sense because what would cause the alternate timeline to happen in the past in 2014 is Clint getting the Soul Stone. Well, if Captain America stops the sacrifice from happening, the Soul Stone is never taken. But of course, Clint still does need a Soul Stone to bring back to the present time for the Avengers to perform the snap, but that's where Captain America gives him the Soul Stone. The logistics of it kind of work out, but the fact that Black Widow does not die and stays alive would in itself create an alternate timeline. But it would be an alternate timeline where Natasha is alive and the Avengers defeat Thanos. So that is it for this week's theories. Let's do a quick recap so you can all vote on which one was your favorite. Theory number 1 is that Captain America got Natasha back in exchange for returning the Soul Stone. The two of them returned the Infinity Stones back in time, but there was only one Pym particle left, so the two of them stayed back in time and ended up marrying each other. Theory number 2 is how the Black Widow movie was going to play out and that Hawkeye is going to make an appearance in the Black Widow movie. Theory number 3 is that Mysterio was the Sorcerer Supreme in his alternate universe. The taking of the Time Stone is what created his universe, and then when Captain America put it back, it destroyed his universe. He finds this out in Spider-Man Far From Home, and then he becomes the villain. Theory number 4 is that Supergiant is going to go on to be a villain in the MCU and also help introduce the X-Men. And theory number 5 is that when Steve Rogers went back in time to return the Soul Stone to Vormir, he ends up saving Natasha and giving Clint the Soul Stone. So those are this week's theories. Be sure to vote on which one you think is the best one. Just a reminder that you should use the poll at the top of this video to vote because that's how we choose the winner. And again, if you would like to submit a theory of your own, you can find the email to send it to and the instructions in the description down below. Don't forget to comment with your thoughts, like the video, and subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date on all Theory Thursdays and so you can stay up to date on everything relating to the MCU. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.